So we're back to work on this room again today. We had Chris down for the weekend, so I temporarily put a bed in here and whatnot to make him comfortable. So it's time to clean all that up and get it put away and get back to work. So once everything's cleaned up in here, I have got to do a little bit of work of framing this electrical box and figuring out a door for it to get it looking a little bit tidier. Well, doesn't that look about 1,000% better?
Okay guys, we're out in the shop, got the generator going, and we're ready to cut this hatch for the fuse panel. So I got my door fitted reasonably well. Now I want to give it a little bit of strength, so I've got some pretty thin strips here that I'm going to glue and brad nail to the outside edges of it. Okay, that looks pretty good. Next step is to get the magnets installed.
Okay, we got all our magnets in place. Let's see how this works. Well, I would say that was pretty good. So that's another job down. So the next step here is to build the shelf that goes up on this top piece. But it has its own little interesting problems, similar to what the others have, and I'll show you what's going on there. So up on the top of this, you can see that this has a bolt sticking out of it that holds these boards down in place against the cement foundation that's back behind here. So any shelf I put in here has to be propped up with a little thicker
size shims because of how high these bolts stick up. And that's a bit of a nuisance because they stick up almost half an inch there, as you can see. No, they do actually stick up half an inch. So I've got to put a couple of shims down either side here, same as I did on the other shelf, in order to block them up, to block my shelf up high enough off of these bolts. And of course, as usual, there's nothing straight. So we have 6.5 inches here, and we have 7 inches there. So it's not as bad as the other shelf, but it's still a bit of a nuisance. So I'll have to do my measurements here for it and get that shelf cut and get it started. So we're out in the shop, ready to go. And my first challenge on this board for that upper shelf is I need to put a 45 degree on here for my overhang, like is on the other shelf and the windowsill. It's easy to put it on the long side on the table saw, but I can't really do that here on the table saw. The board is too long and be too unwieldy. So I have my Porter cable battery saw that I can set at a 45. So I'm going to set up a straight edge here at 90 degrees and try cutting it that way. We'll see how that goes. Oh, that worked perfect. All right, we'll cut the next 45 degree over on the table saw. Okay, so there's my angles cut. There and there. That looks pretty good. All right, next thing I want to do is fasten these to the board. And that will be done with a little bit of wood glue and my brad nailer, just like the last one. Okay, there's the first one on. Now this is going to allow me to get my overall length, plus I've got to cut some slots through here to give a little extra room for the head of those bolts that are sticking up on the inside piece. So we'll do some measurements next and layout for the slots. So this doesn't have to be pretty or anything. I just am cutting a clearance for the bolts, for those bolt heads, and cutting in about 1/4 inch deep. It'll be my first use of the DeWalt battery powered router here. So that reduces the amount of shim that I have to put underneath here in order to get up above those nuts. Okay, we'll take this inside, let the glue dry, and then tomorrow we've got to cut the depth of it. So that's pretty good. Okay, it's a new day. We're back out in the shop again. I have got to now cut the depth of this board, and I also need to cut our underlying strips to prop the board up over top of those nuts. The shims that we'll need. So those are the two jobs for today, and then hopefully get this inside and fitted. All right, there's our layout line complete. So the next step is to cut this thing off. Okay guys, we got our shelf all ready. I've got the shims up in place there. All we have to do is see how the shelf fits. Well, that's pretty good. I don't think there's any fitting required. That just sits on there perfect. Nice and close to the edge, right up against the wall there. Well, besides a little bit of sanding and then painting, of course, that's good. All right, so there's a good part of the woodworking jobs done. We've got the cover on over top of the fuse box. We've got this lower shelf in place. We're fitted. We have the windowsill all fitted, ready to go in. And now our upper shelf is all set. So we're in good shape. Next project is going to be installing a light in the closet. That could be a little bit fun trying to figure out a power source for it. But nonetheless, I don't like a dark closet, so we'll see what we can figure out before we put on a closet door in the trim. So that's it for today's video. It's time to go outside and have some fun out there. It should be a nice couple of days to play outside for a bit. All right, thanks for watching, guys. See you in the next one.